morning and welcome. This is Tampa Home Talk. Today's November the 1st, and welcome. We've got an exciting show planned up for you. And what I love even better than the exciting topic is we have real examples to share with you this morning on the air. And without further ado, I'm joined by my co-host,
Leo Cannyn with Beryl Engineering and Inspection. Why is Adam Talley from Talley Insurance wearing a blue hat?
Because tomorrow's his birthday.
A blue hat.
Birthday. I believe it's a crown, my friend.
Yes, it's a blue crown. I didn't get you pink. I gave you blue.
I appreciate that.
It was very nice.
So tomorrow is Adam
Still
Talley's
weird.
birthday. Yeah. And we're also joined again by Mr. Mike Fasano, Pasco County Tax Collector.
Good morning.
And we're also joined by his sidekick, Mr. Tim Coet.
Good to be here.
Did you like the little voice crackle that came along with that? And so today, one of the questions we get, and I think Mimi printed it on the outline. Let's have a look here. So I get all these questions all the time that I kind of take for granted, right? Because we know the answer. We were talking about portability, and like, oh my gosh, you don't know about portability.
It's surprising how many people, even in the business, are not aware of portability, and this has been in place for many years now.
I know, and you worked hard to get it. That's the kicker. That's the part that's
It was passed in a special election,
2010.
2010.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 2010.
Yes on one.
19, almost.
Yes on
10,
one,
almost,
yeah.
almost 10 years. So one of the questions that I get, so we have this property, and the ladies actually lived in it for a little while. We're looking up to see how long, because that's going to feed into another question later.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the listings that I had, she lived there with her husband, and her husband literally just moved into an assisted living, and she just moved to San Francisco. So we sold the home to like an investor that actually fixed it up really nicely and is going to be reselling it again. So one of the questions that I got from actually somebody on my team, and this is a very relative question because buyers would ask us this all the time, they would say, so her question was, okay, so portability of the estate tax exemption, what does that mean? And then she said, so what about the taxes? These taxes are going to go up, aren't they? And I said, oh yeah, they're absolutely going to go up because the taxes on this particular home were only $160 for the year.
What?
Actually, less
Well,
than
that's
$160.
because the gentleman was a veteran, a disabled veteran, and
It's
he
100%,
was.
right? It has to be-
Well, it's 100% if you're 65 years or older. If you're under 65 years or under 65, it's based on the percentage that you are getting. So let's say, for instance, a veteran who is disabled, that is military related, and you are 50% disabled, you would get a $5,000 exemption up until you're 65. At 65, then he would begin to get the 50% off of his the assessed value of his home. If you're 100%, you would get it regardless of age.
So 100% they get, let's break down exactly what they get a discount on, because on this
Okay.
particular one, if you want to look at it since it's our example,
Sure.
taxable value is actually zero.
Those
on
are
this
your
notice.
those your ad valorem taxes. Ad valorem means property taxes. That means that he's not going to pay any tax on the ad valorem because he's getting 100% exemption on the assessed value. However, any type of exemptions do not come into play on non-ad valorem taxes like your county solid waste, your county stormwater, your community development taxes, your CDD, street lights, things like that, a PACE loan. That would all come under a non-ad valorem. You will always pay tax on those items regardless of the exemptions.
Because those are real expenses, right? But you're not essentially paying any taxes.
Well, they're not a tax. They're an assessment. Anything in this box here is an assessment.
Okay.
Not a
That's an
tax.
expense. It's a real expense, right?
Yes.
It's an expense for
Certainly.
stormwater.
Why are these guys laughing?
It's still money that shows up on a quote-unquote tax bill.
Yes, but
It's a tax
He's
notice.
responsible for
you're very
collecting the
familiar.
money.
Notice.
You're very familiar with a PACE loan. PACE people will tell you that theirs is not a loan; it's an assessment.
It used to be in politics.
Huh?
Used to
No, wait a
be.
minute.
I'm just telling you the
He's
truth.
still an elected official.
I'm telling you the
Here's
truth.
a relevant point, because
Yes.
you guys are now, I don't remember all the specifics. I've had you on so many times I should, but you guys are actually collecting money and doing different things for different agencies, right? Like I know you
Certainly.
do driver's license,
Yes.
concealed weapons. Like what else are you guys doing that you're collecting money for?
Oh, we do public fingerprinting, but our main goal via the Constitution is the collection of taxes for the county. and then we distribute to the county those taxes. But we do concealed weapon permits, driver license, give your driving test, do public fingerprinting. The list goes on and on. Birth certificates, change
if you're
your
born
title.
in Florida.
You know, anything that has to do with motor vehicle as well.
Didn't you tell me somebody wanted you guys to take over their collection of something? I thought you said that a while back, or you were talking to a department or someone about
We are talking to some of the toll road people throughout the state. We have many people that will come into our office that are not able to renew their registration because they have an unpaid toll. We are unable to renew their registration until that toll is paid. So we're trying to work with some of the toll road agencies. Specifically, we're close to the one in Orlando.
Yep, CSX.
To have an interlocal agreement that we can take the toll road fines, if you will, the unpaid toll road fees, and get them paid off for the person right there and then, so they can renew their registration.
So that's nice. You just collect the money while they're there, renew it, so they don't have to come back.
Right.
It's such a convenience type thing, the way your organization is set up.
And
When somebody walks through the door, I kid with my staff, or we kid with our staff. We say, look, we don't want you to say it out loud, but when someone walks through the door, I want you to say cha-ching, because every time we provide a service, the tax collector's office benefits from it, from charging a fee for that service. However, we do not get any money from the county, the state, or the federal government. Everything that we generate to pay our staff, to pay for the lights, to do anything we want to do, is all based on the fees that we charge.
And that goes to say just how your organization is run.
Yes.
It's just run really, really well. You should teach budgeting classes.
But back to the tax bill, one of the things that's interesting is the cities will oftentimes come to us and add, Dade City came to and did street lights. Newport Richey, sir, wants to do what? They want us to do code violations, maybe put those on there, because it's extremely difficult for them to be able to collect those. And by law, we have to collect the entire tax bill, or we can't collect anything.
We're going to be doing possibly a couple of. We also, of course, anything in Florida statute that allows us to collect, and the county or the cities would like for us to collect it, we will do that. MSBUs, MSTUs, and you can see stormwater, solid waste, street lights. We're now working with the city of Newport Richey to collect for their
Code violations.
Yeah, code violations.
That's awesome. So let's talk about this particular example, right?
Okay.
So this gentleman has no ad valorem taxes that he pays. It's only the extra stuff, right? The non-ad valorem, so solid waste, stormwater. In this case, there's no CDD or anything like that.
Right.
So the question was that we got is, aren't these taxes going to go up? And with 100% assurity, we can say yes, they're going to go up.
Yes, they will.
Because for one, it's changing hands, right? It just sold for $175 to a cash buyer that let her stay for a few days after, get things sorted, and now that property's been totally renovated, and it's going to be changing hands for every bit of $250.
So that right now the assessed value is $176. It's
And
going to go to
that's-
two. It's going to go to two. Well, the
Your
sale
brand new
price
bill
is
today.
$250.
This is your brand new bill, 2019.
Oh, excellent! And let me tell you, it looks pretty good.
And it's working, too.
Yeah.
Our website's been updated. That's good.
You
Yes.
pulled it
Just
this
made my
morning.
day.
That's right.
5 minutes before he came in, we pulled it.
So so right now the assessed value is $176 before any exemptions. So you go by that. Now the new taxable value will be just probably under $250 if that's what they're paying.
So I pulled a ballpark number. We went over to the property
Sure.
appraiser, Gary Joyner's office, and
Right.
basically did, okay, if this sold, we pulled 85%
Yes.
of $250.
Yep.
If it sold for every bit of that, new assessed value will be around $212,500.
Right.
And I put in a $50,000 homestead exemption, assuming somebody would live there as a primary residence.
Right.
So that changes and makes our new taxable value $162.
That's correct.
Which is actually less than what's on here, but the guy was a disabled veteran. Is that fair?
Well, actually, no. That is not. That 162 is not that.
So that would be this?
That 162 would be this, and then the exemption would come in, the 50,000. So
Got
it
it.
would be $50,000 less if this gentleman did not have the 100% exemption.
So we're going to give you an idea how this works when we come back, and we're going to give you an idea what this new tax bill might be next year for the new owner that is currently $160 right now. And so that's why when we are in the field with our clients, they get so hung up on what's the payment. And the one thing that we can't predict is the taxes, at least initially, right? We cannot give you an exact amount. It's going to depend on the house that you purchase. And so we're going to talk more about that when we come back right after the break. You're listening to Tampa Home Talk. Our off-air number is 813-377-2775. You can call or text us at 813-377-2775. We'll be back in just a moment.
Well, good morning. Welcome back. This is Leo Cannyn with Beryl Engineering and Inspection. We have our topic, which is my favorite topic, is numbers. It happens to be taxes, which is
too, right?
not my favorite topic, but numbers is. So this is exciting. Mike Fasano's got a whole bunch of
But
numbers.
no, those aren't mine. Those are hers.
Oh, those are
I came empty-handed.
Yeah, he came empty-handed.
Our office just produces those, Leo. Don't
Yeah.
hold those against us.
Yeah. We only collect the taxes. We don't decide
Your
what they
favorite
are.
saying is probably "Don't shoot the messenger," right? Like,
Yeah.
don't shoot the tax.
Actually, people are very understandable. They know it's not us. So
You had a great point, Tim, during the break. You mentioned it. You were saying people come into you all the time. Oh my gosh, why is this tax bill so different than it was last year?
Certainly.
yeah.
Yeah, we get that a lot. Where people buy a new home and the other person enjoyed the exemptions, the Save Our Homes cap, and now they're buying that home maybe for $350,000, and they expect the tax bill to mirror what the previous owner just had, and we run into that a lot where we have to explain to them, well, the taxes are based off of the new assessment of the new value of that home based on what the property appraiser has on their website. So it is something we see quite often, and this is a great example of that, particularly because of the full disabled veteran exemption as well.
Right.
We had
What's a rogue example, but it's a real example.
It is a real one.
Well, we had a young family that called me, and I called them back. I knew right away because they could not understand why their taxes increased so significantly. They bought a home. They were having to sell their home because when they found out what the taxes were going to be, it was way out of their budget, and they had to sell their home.
That's a shame sometimes.
Because sadly, no one told them. No one told them that Mrs. Jones or Mr. Jones, by the way, just so you know, that $1,000 tax bill that the seller is now paying is going to now go to $3,000.
You know where we see it happen the most is in new construction, especially at this time of year, because what happens is, let's say the house just got the CO, which is a certificate of occupancy.
And they were only paying on the lot.
Just got it summertime, right? So the bill right now is just the land. But what's going to happen is their lender already estimated what the full tax bill would be. This is really what happens every 2 years.
Yeah, we see it.
So they estimate what the full tax bill will be. Now they get this new tax bill for under $1,000 because it's just on land. So they say, "Oh, your escrow is wrong. We have to redo it." So then they send them back all this money. They drop their payment, and then they're thinking, "Oh, life's great. My payment dropped." Well, we try to prepare people for that going into new construction, saying, "Look, your taxes are going to be out of whack for 2 years. It's going to take 2 years for this to settle based on the time that you close." So now and I say, "Look, this money is not free money. Take it, put it in a savings account, because what's going to happen is the next year you're going to get a tax bill with the whole thing on it. Make sure you get your homestead on it." We see that too, where they forget to file.
That's correct.
So they got the super high bill the next year, then they got to wait till the following year. So now you're talking about 3 tax bills later to get homestead exemption. But new construction, it's super wacky, just because of the taxes are paid in arrears.
When's the best time to move in as a permanent resident during the year?
Well, the deadline for homestead exemption is March 1st, right?
No. Well, that's to file it. But the most important
December 31st.
date is right. If you're going to get homestead for that year, make sure you move in, if you can, by December 31st.
Make sure your deed is
Unless the prior owner already had homestead on
Right.
that home, then you're good for that year. But if, and of course the person has already paid the taxes for that year, but if you get in there before January 1st, you can file by March 1st and get the following year as far as your homestead.
Yeah, because again, it tags along for whatever happened last year. So
Yep.
whatever's going on as
Yeah.
of December 31st, that's what you're going to see at
Right.
the end of the year.
We'll have some businesses, not individuals, but businesses that will build a business, but not move in until after the 1st, because they don't want to be assessed until for that new value, because they don't get homestead anyway. But the property appraiser will go back and say, wait a minute, even though you didn't get a certificate of occupancy until the 3rd or 4th of January, this business could have been occupied prior to that, and you're being assessed for the prior year.
Well, if they don't have a CO, they couldn't have occupied it, could they?
Well,
Nope.
If you're
no,
talking
they
about new
can't. They
construction.
can't occupy until the CO. But the property appraiser will look at that business and say, you could have gotten a CO prior to January 1st. And some businesses have been hit. I had a gentleman call me and very upset, and I explained to him this is a property appraiser's discretion.
Even if they show you a list of county rejections on permits?
Well, that's a different story, but this business didn't have that.
He's used to arguing that.
Well, no, it's just that I've seen, like, on a house.
Well, it's just odd that how would you get a CO 3 days after?
On January 4th?
Yes.
Easily.
Exactly. All of a sudden, the CO pops
I see
up.
this
you
as
know?
I'm saying just wait 2 weeks, make it.
Well, wait a little longer. Make it
think
look legit.
Exactly.
Make it look
I see this all the
legit.
time. You get like a December 20th, 21st rejection on your grading because your sidewalk was possibly in the wrong place.
Sure.
And then that guy goes on vacation for 2 weeks.
Yeah, but that's understandable. I think this is a different scenario is what I'm giving you.
So what I'm trying to say is if you're running into this problem, call Leo Cannyn at Beryl.
Shameless plug. I love it. Good job.
Yeah.
I know, right?
But it wouldn't be a bad idea for them to call the property appraiser as well and let them know they're having difficulty moving in prior, and these are the issues. So you're prepared, and they're prepared if all of a sudden the CO shows up, 5 days after the first of the year.
Katrina, let me ask you, this particular example that you're looking at right here, where the taxes need to be adjusted, the new homeowner's got to get themselves prepared. How well do you see title companies handling this?
Be more specific in the question.
So when the person goes to closing, right, we have our big long HUD statement, and they have the settlement cost of the taxes they owe, and then the settlement cost of the taxes what the seller owes. Is that title company in any way, or is it even their responsibility to help that new homeowner understand what their future taxes are going to be?
It's not. Their only job of the title company is technically to ensure clear marketable title. That's their only job.
So we need to be sure as the homeowner.
Well, they happen to facilitate
know
the
what their taxes are
closing,
gonna be.
but people think that's their only job, but really they just happen to do that, right? Like you happen to collect taxes for something that you don't even are not a part of. It's the same thing. Your only job is to collect taxes, just like the title company's only job is to ensure clear marketable title. So really, I think a lot of the response, and technically all the due diligence does fall on the homeowner.
Certainly.
And what they tell us, like, because I'm a broker, right? So they say, even though I know the answer many times to stuff, like even questions people would ask legally, what they always tell you is don't be the source to the source, right? So for example, in this particular scenario, right, I get a buyer that comes in and they go, what is my new tax bill going to be? I'm not going to just tell them, oh, your new tax bill is going to be blah, 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 right? Because we pulled up an estimate on what this would be. What I would do is point them to the property appraiser site, estimate taxes, and say, well, I pulled a ballpark 85%. I don't know exactly what the property appraiser is going to assess you on, but whatever that number is what you'll be taxed on. And if you had a homestead exemption and you close by the end of the year, which is what we're talking about, then your new tax bill might be $1948.65. But here's what I got from the property appraiser's office. Yeah,
got it.
So that's what I mean by being the source to the source. The problem is a lot of times even like the source to the source is not a good resource.
But you know where you also run into a problem is with escrow accounts. The lender is going to base your monthly escrow, based on what the taxes were from last year's tax notice.
Most of the time, not always.
Not always.
In this particular case, and in new construction, they are always going to put a big number on there.
Right.
Because they don't want to have an escrow shortage, and they know they will.
Right.
The challenge is they're not allowed to hold more than a 3-month cushion by law, so they have to give all that money back to the buyer, which is why you see this yin-yang for 2 years with the taxes.
Gotcha.
But, again, this is the guidance, right? And I tell people, I had a client in here yesterday, and we were talking all about, because they want to know a lot of times, what's my numbers going to be exactly? I want a budget. And the truth is, I can't tell you exactly what your numbers are going to be, especially if I don't even know what house you're going to pick. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a big part of the equation because the taxes are such a big part of it.
That's great. We had some lender, some mortgage companies from out of state kept emailing us saying, can you tell us what the taxes will be if a home is put on this property? And they couldn't understand as we kept emailing them back, it's impossible for us to tell you.
Yeah.
You know, how many square feet. We wouldn't even attempt to try and tell you, nor would the property appraiser. We don't know what kind of home you're going to put on that lot. And they could not get it through their heads. They kept coming back saying, well, you know, can you at least tell us the estimate if we put a property, you know, a home on this property?
What they didn't want to hear is there's going to be an escrow shortage. That's what they were trying to
Is that what it was?
Yeah. They don't,
I couldn't understand why they kept asking of us.
I don't know if you guys escrow, like I don't, but for example,
I do.
Okay, so let's say you escrow and now you have a $1,500 tax shortage.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know this, but your lender is always going to come to you and say, hey, you got a $1,500 tax shortage. Can you go ahead and write a check and take care of that? And you can turn around and say, no, I don't have $1,500 to take care of this. I need you to divide it up in my payment over 12 months.
And increase
and they have to do it.
Right.
So it'll be a little over $100 a month for that shortage, plus your new payment.
Right.
But you don't have to stroke a check for $1,500. So that's one of the advantages for escrow. But that's why the lender, I'm sure, kept emailing you, because if they're holding money for escrow and they're the escrow holder, they have to pay that difference,
Yeah,
right?
makes
They have to. So you're listening to Tampa Home Talk. When we come back, we're going to chime in a little bit more about these questions that we get from buyers and some of the scenarios that we see. I love these real world questions. I try to bring all this stuff to our show every week. So, all right, our offer number 813-377-2775. 813-377-2775. If you have a question, feel free to text it. We'll answer it when we come back right after the break.
Welcome back to Tampa Home Talk. This is Adam Talley with Talley Insurance, and we're going to...
Why don't you hold your insurance tip for the day, because we've got a question. Can we answer a question?
Sure, go for
Never
it.
mind. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. Go for it.
Birthday. My goodness gracious.
Go for it. What do you
Put your crown back on.
It's your birthday. You can do whatever you want.
What's our question here?
All right, so we got a question over the break. It says, my parents closed on the sale of their home, and their homeowner's insurance company is asking for a copy of the closing statement in order to issue them a refund. Why do they need that information? Is it illegal? Do they need to have all the number information on the closing statement?
So they can redact the closing, first of all, you can find all that on the property appraiser's website.
Not the settlement statement. That's not on there. No.
But, well, either way, you can get the document the carrier will want off of the property appraiser's website eventually, but you probably don't want to wait that long.
There sounds like there's a little more to the story, but I'm going to say perhaps the reason why they're asking that is it could have gotten collected twice. So like if your parents actually paid for their homeowner's insurance, which is paid 1 year in advance, and then the lender actually collected for the insurance on the Alta, that could be why they're asking for it.
No, it's probably more likely that they want to backdate a cancellation. And the carrier just wants proof that the house was sold, so that way, because let's face it.
Is that what you think it is?
Absolutely, 100%. Okay. I mean, and sometimes carriers, they want that even if you're canceling, the day that you sell it, they want a copy of it. Now, you can redact all the numbers. They don't care what you sold it for. They just care that, you have proof that you sold it on that date.
Why would they need proof to be able to get a refund?
So on the flip side of that, you could have somebody that, say, sold their house today.
Gotcha.
But they want to go back and say, oh yeah, no, I sold that 2 months ago to get more money back.
I see.
But you guys were actually insuring it, so yeah.
Exactly. But nothing happened, so why does it matter?
Gotcha.
Right?
Interesting.
So that's what they're looking at.
Okay, so what's your tip of the week?
Well, my tip of the week, it actually kind of deals with what we talked about a little bit yesterday, and it's that most people don't actually shop their insurance on all the toys. Right?
Okay,
your boats, your watercraft, your RVs, the little golf carts, all that stuff.
In full disclosure, I love Adam. He does do some of my insurance, but not all of my insurance. So I've had State Farm for a number of years, and you just can't touch like what I have because I've had it for so long, right? From life policies to car policies, especially insuring teenagers, which is never like, just wait, Tim.
Never fun. No.
When you start insuring your teenagers, it's a whole new ball game. And so
start saving now.
Yes.
And you can't save enough, I promise you.
Even with
it's higher than your tax bill?
But no.
What if they just don't drive?
Yeah.
Now you're cooking.
Here's the thing, they still poke around like they know when you have kids of age, and we waited to the last possible minute to tell them they were of age, but they still know. They know, they just ask.
Insurance companies know everything.
So we, the insurance building, the insurance on the building, Adam rocked that out of the house. He was way better, and he didn't let me forget about it. My insurance almost canceled because I got busy and forgot to pay it. And he's like, you need to pay your insurance now. I'm like, okay, I'll do it right now. But I was shopping around for insurance quotes on a boat, and Adam was the 1/3 of what State Farm gave me.
Wow.
Well done. Progressive is one of our carriers, and they're usually, when it comes to the toys, they're usually the best.
That's excellent.
We still beat Progressive by half.
We had a dad that came in one day. I was gatekeeping, in fact, and a dad came in with his son and said, what do we need to do to surrender my son's license? His son had just gotten it, and I was kind of shocked as to why he wanted to surrender. Son was there. Son, you could see, was so disappointed. He got the insurance bill. He got the insurance bill, and there was no way they could pay it, he said.
So what is the can you surrender that your
Absolutely.
kids? Oh, I love this. I am saving this audio, and I am
You have every right to the driver's license till they're, 18 years old.
So from
legal
an
age.
insurance perspective, Adam, how does that work? When you go in and you've surrendered the driver's license, is there paperwork on that, Mike, that I would send to Adam?
No, we don't. We just take the license and we surrender it. We may give them a receipt.
Typically they swap it for an ID.
Yeah.
Because you can just get a Florida ID that has your information on there, because they're going to need it for other
Then you
things.
want to notify your insurance agent, I'm sure.
Insurance can pull that, though, right? That they don't have a driver's license?
Yeah, I mean, it would pull that it's not valid eventually.
Yeah.
Though. You know, it's not like it's
around with
going to take a
non-valid
little bit.
license.
Is it going to be more expensive to have teenagers in your house without a driver's license?
No, I mean, it depends on the carrier. So some carriers, they want everyone listed that's of driving age, regardless of if they have a license or
Time
not.
to shop your insurance.
Other carriers, they don't want them. They don't necessarily need them listed, and some do make a really good distinction between permit and valid driver's license. Where others, once you got that permit, they're giving you that full rate regardless. So
somebody goes into the DMV, they're like, no, I want Mike Fasano. I'm taking a picture of handing this driver's license back to Mike. That's going to be my proof for my insurance.
I just give it to my staff.
It gets so pricey, and then what if you have an accident, right? If you have an accident on
I
your,
already told my kids, if they have an accident, they are not driving anymore until they're 18. If they get a ticket or an accident, there will be no driving until they get their own insurance.
It gets out of control, and then if you're in a position where you need to carry some higher limits, whew.
All I know is my insurance goes up every year.
Yeah.
Just every year. Don't have any tickets, no accidents.
Katrina's went down this year. How about that?
Yeah.
Which one?
The commercial.
You would just
the commercial
you could just
insurance.
open the door for a quote, sir.
Yeah. You do auto insurance?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
What other types of insurance does Tally from Tally Insurance?
Oh, we do workers' comp and general liability and all the fun stuff. Professional liability.
They do watercraft. Is there a flip side to not having insurance? Like if you pay cash for a boat or something, is there a flip side to, like, what's your?
If it gets stolen or you get stuck or you hit somebody or anything like that, you would not be covered. You'd be out of pocket.
The interesting part about your quote is it had like a CETO type thing on there, right? Like what is that called again on the thing?
Well, for them it was we added their captain's package, but every carrier has their own little
awesome.
thing. Yeah, it's basically roadside assistance for your boat. It's the easiest way to put it.
Oh, roadside assistance for the boat. Yeah.
So they'll tug your boat?
Yeah.
Right there on 75,
Once it starts getting older, they'll drop that. It's no longer on the table. Just kidding.
If you run out of gas, they putter up with like a gallon of gas for you?
Yeah.
So going back to the tax thing, because I do want to cover the portability part of it too. So going back to the question that we get, people will say, "Oh, I want to know exactly what my payment's going to be." And the truth is, we can give you a ballpark number, but we cannot tell you exactly what it's going to be for two very good reasons. One, the taxes. If you walk into a property like this where you have a disabled veteran or somebody that's been in their home for 20 years, I can tell you with 100% certainty your tax bill will be higher, right?
Yep.
Or if you buy a bank-owned property with no homestead exemption on it, that's assessed as high as it can be, and maybe you got a deal on it because it's assessed too high,
Right.
your taxes are likely going to go down if you have homestead exemption.
it doesn't have to be just bank owned. It could be someone who owned the home here but is living in another state and never applied for a homestead here in Florida, or they own two homes and the one they're selling happens to be not the one that they're homesteaded.
Right.
So we've had many people who, really sad. Our office sends out a letter to anyone and everyone that closes on a home.
Yep.
And to encourage them to file for homestead, because after we came in as tax collector, we were shocked by how many people were totally unaware, after living in their home for years, that they should have applied for homestead, and they couldn't understand why they were paying more taxes than their neighbor.
I started to tell you this morning, and we ran out of time because we ran in here to get on the air, but one of the things I think we're going to start doing as a value-added service for our clients is going back at this time of year right now, looking at everybody that we have closed escrow with, and seeing just to make sure if they got, if they filed for homestead exemption.
That's great.
If they didn't, helping
Good for
them
you.
through that process.
That's great.
And also portability. There's some people that should be taking that with them,
Yes.
which we're going to actually talk about next.
I also
So-
think a title company, so minor, is when in the packet that the title company gives to the person who's closing on that home, in that packet is the application for homestead.
Yeah. It should-
And the explanation for it.
I don't-
It's so easy to file for homestead in the state of Florida. You
I'm
can
not
do it
sure
online.
if you're aware of this, but the title companies used to do it. They used
they?
to literally fill out the homestead exemption and
Right.
send it in. Well, then there started to be some type of liability, whatever, with, oh, you didn't get my homestead application.
Gotcha.
So they took it away.
Yeah, just put it in the packet though, and
I think, you know what, we can do that. We'll add
There you
that to
go.
our packages.
Yeah,
I love that.
Okay.
Although
I'll
it's
send you
better
a
to do
bill.
it online.
Yeah.
You can give me the paper copies to slip in there.
We send
That's
her a
it.
couple bills already for her properties.
Several.
I know.
I wasn't going to say that, sir.
And so the two things, again, the taxes and then the homeowner's insurance. And,
Yep.
and you two, Adam and Leo, you guys can both chime in on this, because we tell people, and this is what we tell them during the consultation, is budget on about $500 for an inspection, but just know it can be more depending on what inspections you actually need. We don't know if you're going to need a 4-point inspection, if you're going to need a wind mitigation, if you're going to need a termite, or if you want a termite, or the lender's going to require it. It's all going to depend on the home that you're buying.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, the insurance is going to change as well. So that's why we ballpark, but we say, look, once you actually find a home you like, then we'll go back to the drawing board. We'll start reevaluating numbers. We'll give you an idea. We'll tell you if we think the taxes are going to go up or down. You can do all your own due diligence, obviously, on the tax sites and the property appraiser site, but it gives them at least some idea of what to go into.
Well, and kind of like what we were talking about with taxes, just because the previous owner had a certain carrier or premium, doesn't necessarily mean you can have that same carrier premium.
We've got another property right now we just asked you about. My seller's insured on this property, and it has polybutylene plumbing. And so that's part of the thing. Like, the seller doesn't want to repair it. I told him right away, as soon as because he had a little patch open in the garage, I said, that's going to be an issue. The buyer's going to flag it. And so we have a buyer now that was able to convert their deal to cash, which you can get insurance with it, but it's a lot harder. Finally, his insurance company explained to him, look, it's a lot different than it was when you bought your house, and now we don't really insure this so much.
Yeah. Well, and how about with citizens too, like we talked about, right? Like the cutoff for them with polybutylene is 30 years. This home just happened to be 31 years. If they were looking at it, last year, different story. Then you
Citizens still writing policies? Good luck and God bless.
Unfortunately, yeah.
What a mess. What a mess.
Just for my ignorance, what is that plumbing issue?
So, Leo.
Oh, yeah.
Leo, shut up.
The polybutylene.
He's like, somebody talking to me.
Somebody's Leo.
So polybutylene piping is a type of plastics they had when they were first trying to get away from copper and
Yeah.
lead and galvanized. So what ends up happening is at the joints, when the water is swooshing through, there's chlorine in the water and it would eat the joints out.
That's going to be a problem.
So you start leaking.
Is that where Morgan & Morgan comes in?
Yes.
Maybe, I don't know. They have these little pinhole leaks. That's kind of
Yeah.
what we
Yep.
see. And they
Yep.
they had a pinhole leak, which is why they had to disclose it, which is now why the buyer is asking about it.
And down the road we go.
Yeah, but you definitely want to disclose. Don't not disclose, because if you don't disclose something like this, it's a big lawsuit for you. And, we never touch your seller's disclosure. Like, I don't ever put my pin on it. None of my agents are allowed to put their pin on.
Leo, what year, if you had a home built, what year would you not have to worry about moving forward?
Oh, for polybutylene?
Yeah.
Probably the 90s plus.
Oh, okay, then I'm fine.
Yeah.
Are you listening to Tampa Home Talk?
Rest easy.
Off their number, if you have any questions, 813-377-2775. You can call or text those, 813-377-2775. And we've had so much fun, we haven't got to portability yet. That's coming up next.
We promise.
We're going to talk about it right after the break. Stick around. Well, welcome back. This is Tampa Home Talk, and you are listening to a show all about taxes. Today's November 1st. Your new tax bills are dropping, so if you haven't checked it out, go do that no matter where you live. They are online now.
They were mailed out in Pasco. They were mailed out. Well, the law says it has to be mailed on the 31st, and so you'll be getting them in a few days. You can also go online, as you did with one of your clients, and go online and get it as well.
You can see it today.
PascoTaxes.com.
Fun. It's exciting. Yeah, I have a question for you. What the heck is this portability thing you've been talking about all show?
Portability is so awesome, and I can't even pat Mike on the back enough for putting this and helping get this put in place, I should say, because we didn't have this, and then back when the market was going way up, right, in the peak of the market, people found themselves in a position where they wanted to move and they couldn't because their taxes were so low. They were kind of grandfathered in almost on a lower tax bill, if that makes sense, because the maximum was 3% per year it can go up on a homestead property.
Max, yeah. This year it's just about two and change, I think.
Yep.
I mean, I would imagine, for example, if you live in downtown and you've been there for a period of time before all this development came, your taxes are going to be probably a quarter of what they would be if you sell it, if you've got homestead on that property and you've been there. And so that's the point, is portability came into place because let's say you bought this home and maybe I was by myself and I wasn't even married. Well, now I'm married and I've got 2 kids, 3 kids, 4 kids, and I'm in this 2 or 3 bedroom house. I agree. Listen.
Go with the example.
But, so let's just say you have...
Go with it.
You've outgrown your house, right, for one capacity.
Or you want to downsize.
Right. And you have basically, let's say you had 4 kids, right?
Correct.
And now you're empty nesters. It's just you and your spouse, or you're by yourself. You want to move, but you're kind of stuck because your tax bill's so low. So what portability did was it allowed you to actually take your tax savings with you. And so it's a good time for
and your tax savings is what you've built up over the years with the Save Our Homes. And so if the longer you've lived in your home, the more tax savings you can take to the next home.
Is there any way to tell that by looking at the tax bill or no?
Not by looking at the tax bill, no. You need to contact the property appraiser's office. They have great staff there. They can go over with you as far as what the portability you will have to go, that will go with you to the next home. It's important to remember, though, that you only have, once you sell that home, you have to use portability within 2 years. Otherwise, you lose it. And what happened back in 2010, although it was a great thing that passed constitutionally, and it's in the Constitution, so it can never be taken away, it'd be almost difficult to take it away. The people would have to vote it out, which probably would never happen. But the problem we had back then was in 2010, people were totally unaware of it because no one were selling their homes anyway because the market was not there. And so it wasn't until the market got better that all of a sudden, wow, this is a great opportunity and an incentive for realtors to go to people and saying, yes, hey, George, Mary, you've been wanting to sell your home. You want to downsize. All the kids are gone. Here's a great opportunity that you won't see your taxes increase in the next home because you've got all this portability to go with you.
2 questions for you. One. Okay.
Yeah,
well, we'll do the first one first.
Right,
It sounds like this is unique to Pasco County.
No, portability is everywhere.
Statewide everywhere.
Oh,
okay.
no, it's in the state constitution.
Oh, the state constitution.
Yes,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to double check.
No.
What's your second question?
Well, that answers the second question. So we're good.
I answered one question with 2.
Let me jump in. I'll give you a real life example because this affected me. So I was a new home buyer in 2010. Bought a short sale, about $100,000.
I think you're going to say what I was going to say. Go ahead.
On a short sale. So I stayed in that house for 3 years. The market obviously went up between 2010 and 2013 when I was looking to buy. I was in there for 5 years actually because we bought in 2015. We moved because we were expecting another child.
Congratulations.
So there he goes. Number 2. We have 3 now.
Adam was the child? It was like a pat on Adam's back.
No. He missed the congratulations. Anyway, so over that period of time, my taxable value went up, but the actual value of my home went even higher.
Right.
And so I had about $30,000 of tax savings to then take to my next home. So that was the difference. Even though my taxes stayed low, the value of that home went up because the market went up. And when you take that difference, then that comes with you. So I was able to take about $28,000 right off of the taxes of my new home.
On the flip side to that, when we did see the remember you were talking about how when it went down?
Yes.
There was cases that I would see where I would tell people, look, I would go back and get this thing reassessed because you bought it for less than it's being assessed for because the values were dropping that quickly. So that would be a great example where if someone like you bought during that time, you got it reassessed at that first entry level, you got your homestead exemption, and now you got a nice locked-in little tax bill because of the time period in the market that you bought the home.
Well, the one thing that unfortunately that state doesn't allow is recapture in this state. So, for instance, if the value of your home goes down, it's not going to go down more than
Taxable value, right?
The taxable value is not going to go down more than 3%, regardless of what the market value is. I had tried to pass legislation when I was in the Senate. It was called recapture, that people could go back because homes were dropping so that people were saying, wait a minute, I'm paying tax on a home that's of a value that I can't sell it for.
But if it's your first year in, you can probably
if your first year in,
that.
but after that, you're stuck. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's again what we saw then is not what we're going to see now. So we get that question a lot. People will say, "Oh, the property prices have been going up so much. Surely it's going to pop. There's going to be a bubble." And it's not. What we're seeing right now compared to what was then, there was way too many buyers entering the market. Were not real buyers. Okay, so people were buying homes that never were qualified. I'll give you a prime example. I had a guy that was a cook at Denny's. He owned 5 properties, and when I ran the numbers manually, because remember I used to be a loan officer, he didn't qualify for one at all.
That's scary.
According to how an underwriter would underwrite a file and run their debt to income ratios, he didn't qualify for one. So you had buyers like that in the market that were buying 5 homes, right, that were going to be a landlord that didn't even know how to qualify for, they couldn't qualify for one, let alone know how to be a landlord. And now that's what impacted the market. So when we started at the bottom of the crash, when we started rebounding, which was probably around, I would say 08, have to look at the numbers to give you exacts, but we started rebounding around 09, there was a lot of cash coming into the market. So people were pulling money out of the stock market. These hedge funds were coming in and scooping up properties because now they're starting to look at what we call a cap rate. And so they can make a cap rate of excess of 10%, which is more than they could make in the market. So there's just too much cash that came into the market. We're going to see that normal ebb and flow, right? That cyclical real estate dip. It is not going to be like a bubble or a crash. There'd have to be something major economically, like war, right, or something that none of us could predict that could impact our market.
Just remember on portability. So whatever you're able to take, as Tim took $20,000, $30,000 with him, that gets taken off of the assessed taxable value before homestead even comes in. So you are not only getting that, let's say you buy a home for $200,000 and you have portability of $20,000, right off the bat it's actually $180,000, and then the exemption comes in, the homestead exemption comes in after that.
So don't forget about portability. If you've been in your home for a long time, you can take this with you to your next one. Feel free to call us or text us. We'll be happy to help answer this stuff for you. 813-377-2775. Again, 813-377-2775. Stick around. We'll be back for hour number 2. We're going to talk all about being swept away. Join us for our chimney sweep in hour number 2. This is Tampa Home Talk. We'll be back in just a moment.